Welcome into a fresh new hour of CBS Sports HQ. I'm Jordan Giorgio alongside Jacqueline D'Agostino. We have Jay Duzable, Pete Prisco in the house. A full set here. And we appreciate you two joining us on this Monday morning before you jet on over to New Orleans. You looking forward to Super Bowl week or what, man?
Yeah,
so many festivities.
It's always fun.
Yeah.
And in New Orleans, it's a great spot for the Super Bowl.
We're looking very jealous, very jealous. We'll be living vicariously through you guys. Well, we have breaking news right off the top of the show here. Out of the NFL, where star pass rusher Myles Garrett has requested a trade from the Cleveland Browns. He released a statement saying he is making the request because his ultimate career goal is to win a Super Bowl. Garrett is the reigning Defensive Player of the Year and a four-time All-Pro. He also recorded double-digit sacks in every season except his own rookie years. Big news, right?
Big news, and our NFL insider Jonathan Jones reporting that they're saying the Browns are saying we are not entertaining any offers for him as of right now. They're very quick to say that. But again, Jordan, to your point, big breaking news coming down just before the show. So before we get into it, Pete, I'll start with you. Just interested to hear your initial thoughts when you're hearing that Myles Garrett wants out of Cleveland.
By the way, the Mavericks were saying they were not listening to the offers on either. And
everybody's tradable.
Everybody's tradable. Everybody. If you really want to trade somebody, you can trade him. This would be a tough decision to make, in large part because he is such a great player,
Correct.
A, but B, the cap numbers. They have no cap room. You know, the Deshaun Watson contract just prohibits them in a lot of ways from building this roster out and from making a deal like that. Now, you could do it, but you have to get really creative and play cap gymnastics, but you could do it. But why would you? Because he's not happy? No, you're not getting rid of a guy who's the foundational piece of your defense. I wouldn't do it. I don't think ultimately they will do it. And somebody mentioned 2 number ones. Nobody's giving up 2 number ones for Myles Garrett and paying him. That's not happening. Now, a 1 and a 3, maybe, but not 2 number ones.
Okay. He's not only the foundational piece of their defense, he's the face of the franchise. When you look at Myles Garrett and what he's been able to do, you see the numbers right there. And people said it was a quote-unquote down year for him. Well, Pete, he was still number 2 in sacks in the NFL for a team that had an offense that never stayed on the field. So for you to get 14 sacks when you're not getting any help for the offense kind of shows how special you are. I'm like, Pete, I don't think the Cleveland Browns will trade him, 1, because it's going to be essentially almost impossible cap room-wise. But 2, you don't trade away foundational pieces and faces of the franchise. If you do that, other guys that are free agents, they're not going to want to come to your team. Now, again, I know that Myles Garrett is frustrated because he's one of the top players in the league, and he wants to go to a Super Bowl. And right now, we don't know what direction they're going at the quarterback position.
I mean, think about that. You give Deshaun Watson that crazy contract. You restructure that crazy contract to keep him around, and then you trade away your best player. What does that say about your organization? It tells you if that's the case, it wouldn't be very well. Well, it's not very well run anyways because they made the decision to get Deshaun Watson.
Now, it sounds like it's very wishful thinking that this does come to fruition. But if we kind of look into the future, and if it does happen, they get creative, as you mentioned, work around some financials, and it does happen. What makes sense, Pete, as a potential landing spot for Myles Garrett?
Any team that needs an edge rusher. I mean, the Commanders.
I was about to say your Commanders for sure.
Would make a lot of sense, and they have money and they have room. So they're one of those teams that could do it. The New England Patriots have money and room and need. So those are 2 teams right off the top. Right off the top of the bat, who I think would make a lot of sense for Myles Garrett.
How about the Atlanta Falcons? Now, it'll be weird cap-wise, but just imagine this, Pete. Kirk Cousins has a no-trade clause. What if he waives that as a part of this trade with Myles Garrett to go to the Atlanta Falcons? Because they need edge rushers in the worst way in Atlanta. Now, they're dealing with some gymnastics as well when it comes to the cap room. So that'll be interesting if both teams, if this actually comes to fruition, we don't believe it will. But the Atlanta Falcons in a package with Kirk Cousins with Myles Garrett to the Atlanta Falcons makes a lot of sense.
I'll give you one that I would strongly look at if I was the general manager of this team, and that would be Brandon Beane. If I'm the Buffalo Bills,
it's tough for them too, though.
It's tough because they have cap. They'd have to play the cap game as well. But if you want to, you can make it happen. I would strongly look at that. Again, I go back to everything they've done over the course of the last 5, 6, 7 years has been with an eye on getting Patrick Mahomes down in the postseason. Well, they didn't get him down in the postseason, and that was a big reason why they didn't win that game, was because their edge rushers didn't show up in that game. And so maybe you make a move like this if you're Buffalo. You're close. You have all those big foundational pieces to build around on the offensive side. Get one on the defensive side.
And really quickly before we wrap this up, we're about 5 weeks away from that trade deadline. Lige, why do you think? Why now?
Free agency?
Yeah, or free agency. I'm sorry. What am I saying? Trade deadline. I'm getting
NBA, man, been wild.
Yeah, literally. We'll talk about that next. Yeah, that's coming up later in the show. Sorry, but what do you think sparked this today in this moment?
I think he's just frustrated. And this could be a trickle-down effect. I wouldn't even be surprised if a guy like Max Crosby comes out and says the same thing, because when you're a once-in-a-generational type player like Myles Garrett, right, and you continuously come to work year in and year out and you continue to lose. Now, he's actually been to the playoffs twice, and they had a win when Baker Mayfield was the quarterback. They went to the divisional round, lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. And then let's not forget, when they had 5 different quarterbacks, they went to the playoffs as well, but lost to the Houston Texans. He's clearly frustrated because he doesn't know the direction the Cleveland Browns are going in, and he doesn't want to continue to waste years while not actually going for the Lombardi Trophy. So I think this is just frustration for Myles Garrett, because he's trying to figure out, like, Pete, what are we doing in Cleveland? Like, what direction are we heading in? Because I'm wasting away my talented best years, and we're not making a move to the Super Bowl because we don't know what we're doing at the quarterback position.
Here's an idea. He could have kept Baker Mayfield. I mean, they did. There were people in that building that wanted to keep Baker Mayfield. Remember, he had a great rookie year. Then he got banged up. He had an injured shoulder, and he played through it. He shouldn't have played through it. There were people in that building who wanted to keep him, and the mandate came from above. You're going to get Deshaun Watson, and you're going to pay him. That's why this organization is where they are. It's the worst decision any franchise has made in the history of the National Football League. Terrible trade, and you paid him guaranteed money. Awful.
So it always comes back to Deshaun Watson.
Always will be. Always will be. You both seem like you're on the same page here. This isn't something that's going to come to fruition. We just heard from our own Jonathan Jones that he has a source that the Browns are not taking trade requests for Myles Garrett. So just to put a bow on this, with all that kind of being said, you've been in those NFL locker rooms before. How does this affect the guys around him in that locker room?
It'll be interesting, Pete, because as a player, the one thing you can do is withhold your services. That's the only leverage you have. So it'll be interesting to see what Myles Garrett does first when the offseason program starts, and then going into training camp. If he's truly serious, this could be a holdout situation where he's like, I'm not showing up until you trade me, because that's the only leverage he currently has.
There's only so many earning years in your body, and you're not going to leave $20 million. Because I can guarantee you, he goes outside, he's not making $20 million anywhere. So you got to look. My advice has always been to the players, whenever I've talked to them over the years, don't leave it on the table, because you're never getting that money back ever. He's not going to sit out. He might sit out some off-season work, but when push comes to shove, it's time to play. He'll show up and play.
Kansas City, this is our moment. Can you feel it? The Chiefs are standing on the edge of history, just one win away from an unprecedented Super Bowl three-peat. This isn't just about another championship. It's about cementing a legacy that will echo through the ages. Imagine the Lombardi Trophy gleaming in red and gold once again, a symbol of our dominance and pride. But let me ask you, do you believe this is the greatest era in Chiefs history? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Are we witnessing the pinnacle of Kansas City football, or is there more to come? Now, with all this greatness comes a new kind of attention. Some say the Chiefs are becoming the NFL's villains. But is that really fair? Let's dive into that next. You've probably heard it, right? The whispers, the headlines. Are the Chiefs the NFL's new villains? It's wild to think about. Just a few years ago, we were the underdogs, the team everyone rooted for. But now, some folks are throwing shade. Patrick Mahomes didn't shy away from it either. When asked about the villain label, he laughed it off, saying, "If winning makes us villains, so be it." And honestly, can you blame him? Winning breeds hate. It's just part of the game. But not everyone's buying into that narrative. Stephen A. Smith, one of the loudest voices in sports, straight up said Mahomes, Kelce, and Reed are beloved, not villains. I mean, how can you hate Travis Kelce's swagger or Andy Reid's mustache? Come on! Still, there's this thing called Chiefs fatigue. Some fans outside Missouri are just tired of seeing us win. They want a new story, a new champion. But guess what? That's not our problem. So what do you think? Are the Chiefs really villains, or are we just victims of our own success? Vote in the comments. I'm curious to see where you stand. But here's the thing. Whether they love us or hate us, the Chiefs just keep winning. And that's not changing anytime soon. All right, let's talk about the man himself, Patrick Mahomes. This guy isn't just playing football. He's redefining it. 4 Super Bowl appearances in just 6 seasons as a starter. That's Brady and Montana territory right there. Mahomes has a playoff record of 17-3. Let that sink in. If we pull off this win, that's 18-3. These aren't just numbers. They're a legacy in the making. And the best part? He's just getting started. Now, of course, the critics are out there. The refs favor Mahomes, or he plays it too safe. Some even say he's too risky. But here's the truth. Whether he's slinging no-look passes or orchestrating game-winning drives, Mahomes delivers when it matters most. Where do you rank Mahomes among the all-time greats? Is he already in your top 3, or are we talking GOAT status? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I need to know. But even the greatest can't do it alone. And that's where the Chiefs' secret weapon comes into play. Now, let's talk strategy. You know Mahomes will do his thing, but every Super Bowl has that unexpected hero. This year, it might just be Steven Nelson. There's buzz about the Chiefs activating Nelson from the practice squad, and honestly, it makes perfect sense. He's no rookie. This guy's a veteran cornerback who locked down receivers with the Texans last season, holding them to a passer rating of just 73.3. That's elite. With Jalen Hurts slinging it to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, we need all the firepower we can get in the secondary. And let's not forget Spagnuolo's magic when it comes to dialing up defensive schemes. Remember last year's unexpected breakout from Deion Bush? No one saw that coming, and it was a game changer. Could Nelson have that same impact? Imagine him stepping up, shutting down Philly's top targets, and becoming the surprise hero of the Super Bowl. That's the stuff dynasties are built on. But what do you think? Should the Chiefs activate Steven Nelson for the Super Bowl? Yes or no? Drop your opinion in the comments. I'm curious to hear your take, and whether it's Mahomes, Kelsey, or a surprise hero like Nelson. One thing's for sure, the Chiefs are rewriting history. Here we are, standing at the edge of history. The Chiefs are favored by 1.5 points, but the question isn't just will they win, it's how they'll define their legacy. A third straight championship would solidify this dynasty and elevate Andy Reid's status among coaching legends. It's more than just another Super Bowl, it's a statement. So, let's hear it. What's your prediction? Final score? MVP? Is it Mahomes again, or will someone else steal the spotlight? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you believe in this dynasty, hit that like button, subscribe to Total Chiefs, and let's ride this wave of history together. Go Chiefs!